Hello and welcome to Shared Insights, the podcast from BA Insight. My name is Pete Wright, and I am joined today by Jeff Freed. Welcome back, Jeff.
Thanks, Pete. Always great to work with you.
We've got a great conversation today, and very timely. Michael Cizmar is founder and managing director of MC+A, specializing in helping organizations improve their bottom line by implementing cloud and search technologies. Now, he joins us today for a conversation on search, the critical importance of findability, and specifically the state of the Google Search Appliance and replacements since Google announced the phase out of the product in early 2016, targeting complete discontinuation by 2019. MC+A is a Google for Work partner, so we count on Michael's expertise to help us navigate search in this post-GSA landscape. Michael Cizmar, welcome to Shared Insights.
Well, thank you, Pete.
I think it would be great, Michael, if we could start out with a little bit of background on MC+A. How do you like to introduce your organization and what you do for institutions?
I'm the founder and president of MC+A. We were founded in 2004. Since founding, we've been focused primarily around enterprise search. In 2005, Google reached out to us and we became a charter Google Enterprise, now Google for Work, now Google Cloud partner. We've always had a kind of an agnostic practice towards how we implemented search, but over the past few years, we were heavily focused on our relationship with Google, and we ended up doing several hundred implementations, winning awards for our technical expertise within the Google community.
How do you see search changing? Particularly as you look at this, the landscape change coupled with Google's changing investment in the space.
One of my key things is to say that what's changed is we've gone from where keywords were the primary indication of relevance. That is, you index some content, you had to have some knowledge of the content, and an end user supplied keywords, and based on density, based on the location of the keyword in that particular document, it was served up by the retrieval system. We're moving into an area and a dawn of time where keywords are becoming less and less relevant, and the fact is you don't even have to supply a keyword for relevancy to be brought to you. It could be brought to you through context. It could be brought to you through navigation. There's a variety of different ways to where these signals are being brought into the system. Users' expectations are changing. They don't want an opt-in experience. That was something that we kind of promoted heavily within the Google communities. People bought a GSA. They thought that they would have their own little google.mycompany.com. And what ended up happening was the system was severely underutilized. We've always promoted that you take that system and you inject it into your workflow. So you don't make search opt-in. You make it part of the workflow path of whatever you're trying to do, whether it's case deflection, sales enablement. But at the particular point in time when search could be most effective, you bring search into that experience and you help leverage it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the consumer tastes around things like Echo and Siri are the leading edge of a new wave of what you'll call it by lots of different names, more intelligent search. And I know there's a huge wave of hype and overhype about this as well, but I think it's a pretty exciting time. I do a talk sometimes about the search industry, and there's about 7-year waves. And around 95 was the heyday of, the start of fast, autonomy, AltaVista, Google. Ink2Me was a name then. About 2002, there were a lot of enterprise search specialists like Endeca, Recommind. Fast entered, and autonomy got into the enterprise space around 2009. We had a lot of acquisitions and commoditization, and I think we're now at the cusp of a new one. The commoditization was in part driven by open source, in part driven by Microsoft, but also in part driven by Google. And the GSA set I think, a damaging expectation for people that you can plug search in and have it just work.
Yeah, I think, I also say that, Google democratized the enterprise search space. When it came out, you basically had a Lucene framework, and you had to go build an app. You had to do everything. So them packaging everything up into an appliance, it allowed you to get running quickly, but the negative effect was that people thought that search was simple. There's no shortage of haters on Google by the purists out there. But what Google provided was a product that met the general market need. And I think them leaving the marketplace is also an indication of the direction that Google's going, and it really fits into your timelines as well. They came out in 2002-ish, peaking around 2009, and then have now exited, kind of on those 7-year cycles.
You made a comment before we started recording, Michael, that I thought was really interesting, and I wonder if you could reflect a little bit on it. You said that you didn't feel like GSA organizations are taking this change seriously or seriously enough. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so since the announcement, we have kind of promoted the facts of the matter, the lay of the land, what the current state of affairs were. And to our surprise, many of our customers and people that we talked to in the field didn't really understand the impact was to them specifically. They have this idea that they're good until 2019, when in fact, only a very small fraction of the Google customers are going to be licensed in 2019. And so the time frame is shortened, and kind of playing along the lines of what the GSA, some of the negative sides of the GSA, people just assume that it's a very simple path. When we talk with vendors, I think I made the joke, I kick them underneath the table because the first words out of their mouth is like, oh, we can get something going in 2 weeks. And I don't know why people should expect that the system, a complicated system integration project, is going to take longer or shorter to implement than the contracting cycle is, or the purchasing cycle. So the general belief is that people are good, that they can take the project on when they want, and we'll be publishing a blog article, I think this week, on the topic of rethinking how you do your RFP so that it's most effective for you. People are simply going straight down the list of features that the GSA has. And these are customers of ours who we did the implementation, and we know that they have no material use out of that feature, but they're asking the replacement vendor to supply it. For example, the timelines are kind of coming into a couple of waves. Right now, there's a group of companies and customers who are realizing that they have a decision point at the end of the year to either extend their contracts for an additional 12 months or kind of mark in the sand where the replatforming has to be completed. So there's sort of a rush of people trying to hit that milestone. On December of this year will be the last time we can sell licenses. So after December this year, they'll just start, the GSAs will start turning off. Google has announced their replacement product called Cloud Search. Now, it was also dubbed Springboard about a year ago. And I think that gives some direction towards what Google is looking to do. And it's a great product. The companies of ours that have a majority of their content within Google Cloud are very excited about it. But, Jeff, I think you put a blog article about it as well, and it's clearly not some of the other use cases that we see the systems that we implement being used for.
Yeah, I certainly don't think that, I still call it Springboard, that the Google Cloud Search is a viable option for most of the folks on the GSA. If you are using the GSA for website search, you've got a path. You can use Google Custom Search or Site Search.
But they canceled that too.
Yeah. Well, Custom Search is still alive.
If you want ads.
If you want ads. My crystal ball says that Google will evolve the Google Cloud Search so it will do a decent job on your website. Where BA Insight ends up working most often are complex intranet or research portal kind of implementations where there's connectors to multiple things, and Google Cloud Search is just not aiming at that yet. They still have not even got a connector framework, no API to connect to. I definitely agree that the people that have not yet considered what they're going to do, and I have read a couple of surveys, as I know you have, Michael, but that maybe a quarter of people have actually started developing a plan. So there's a big lump of people on the GSA that expect it to be simple and immediate, and I think they have more time than they do. It's definitely time to take this seriously.
I agree. I think that there's a thought that, hey, I could take some open source technology, I can light it up, I'm getting results, check, I'm done. And that, when we talk to customers, our first questions are, what are your metrics around the performance of the system? What are you aiming to improve? How does this affect that overall workflow? And if you gauge it to that standard, these systems they're likely going to fail. A lot of the customers that we work with underutilize their GSA, and so simply, I think you and I have also joked about how many dozen appliances out there are there out there now, where there might have been 2 or 3 a year ago. Google is making a clear indication that the market direction is out, and so there's all these quote unquote replacement appliances. And I think like the last thing I would want to do in 2017 is sign up for more metal in my data center. But that's kind of the thought. People just they want the ramp appeal, set it and forget it, and that's not an attitude that is really applied to just about any other system. Like, oh yeah, our CRM system, it works. It's just kind of funny that the obliviousness to people are until it's broken or it becomes a pressing issue, and like anything, it's hard to fix at that point.
Isn't this the panacea of intelligent search, Jeff? I can't believe you haven't used those keywords yet.
Oh, yes. Well, I am perhaps a bit allergic to overhype, and I would never tell someone that even a simple search deployment would take 2 weeks, because there is a lot of change management and a lot of what I call gardening, organic work with your content, with your content owners for any search deployment, independent of what the technology is. So I usually tell people this is a 6 to 9 month process once they know what they want and have selected technology, etc. We just had someone that has moved to a Office 365 cloud hybrid search setup from a GSA, and that process took a total of 9 months, which was about 2 months longer than they expected and we expected. It's just, I'll say, Murphy's Law, that things go wrong, people change jobs. The elements of this that are independent of the technology are the things that are easiest to underestimate.
Is that shocking, though, even at 6 months? Is that shocking when you start quoting those kinds of timelines? It feels pretty rational to me, but I feel like we're inside that bubble.
Yes, we're inside that bubble. I think that 6 month expectation is normal for any vendor in the industry if you're not trying to overhype things. I don't think BA-Insight is particularly slow at this, just trying to be particularly realistic. Those folks that bought and plugged in a Google Search Appliance had a shorter time than that, right? Their initial deployment time was less. It was often in the distant past. So I do see people that aren't expecting that. They're expecting that they can get a plug-and-play replacement and just go in a couple of months.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think that our standard playbook, if someone walked in, it would be 6 months. Because what we're looking at is initiation of a project, discovery, driving into requirements, change management, operational handoff, and et cetera. And we found it funny that because we have a broad partnership with Google, that on one side we were selling the GSA and dealing with a part of the organization who would just kind of completely simplify it and say it was plug and play. And on the other hand, you're dealing with on the G Suite thing, like we're doing just the opposite. We're like, hey, you're just lining up email boxes. Like, how hard is this? And they were like, oh no, there's a 90 days. I'm like, it would, like, one is not the other, right? It's like, so even Google would have some schizophrenia in that. But I think that what GSA did was it allowed you to not have to size the stack. It bound you in constraints. But a lot of those things are reflected in the technology. So you can create a cloud instance of a search service, vendor of your choice, BA Insight, of course, because we're here together. But you still have all of those other problems, right? It's not that setting up the infrastructure, scaling out the infrastructure is necessarily the challenge. It's taking the technology and tuning it. It's like, okay, I have a database. Your database doesn't have any data in it. It's not designed for the particular use case that you're in. We were just earlier today talking about one of the things that we've noticed is as we work with more vendors, to do a proof of concept seems to take a little bit more effort to have it be generally effective to present what we're trying to do. People love their system, and we could just what GSA was really, really, really strong at was web crawling and web ingestion. And if you had that use case, you loved it. If you said, oh, we're going to have SharePoint, we're going to have these other systems, we're integrate with SAML, it turned into be an ERP type of project, and most people weren't comfortable with that. They would fall on their face. They didn't have the resources to supply it. They didn't understand how security worked, etc. So it's kind of rambling, but circling back, I don't think that people's expectations should be any shorter for the type of investment that they need to make. And most people are trying to parlay that. They're deferring it. They're saying that, oh, my CMS has it, or I don't know, we're looking at options. Can I get an extension? And then they're kind of confused when I just, blankly like, no, this is it. You have to make a decision. This is the line in the sand, and you have to be prepared for the changes in the marketplace.
You already sort of leading us down this path. And you opened this conversation a few minutes ago with a point that people were looking for, essentially, I would say, like a checklist or a feature by feature replacement of the GSA, which is even if they're not using those features. So if we were to step back from that and making those sort of blanket assumptions and try to build a best case, a set of best practices for evaluating how you were using the GSA and what you need to do about migrating it off in a way that, migrating off of it in a way that makes sense and is rational, where would you have people start?
Well, Jeff, I think you have a guide as well. We have a guide, but essentially the guide is to stop, take a look at, if you still have the same team or whomever, but take a look at why you made an investment into search, into the GSA, because it's not really GSA. It's more of a checkpoint in time. So what was the driving? What was the catalyst for the purchase? What was it? And then write those down. We wanted to improve our website conversions. We needed search, federated search. We were doing call center support. We wanted to enable our customer reps. And then you take a look at, most people don't have the metrics, but what metrics you can gather towards how successful were you? What were your operational costs? How much time are you spending? And another one, maybe circle back, like, do you know where your GSAs are? That's kind of a funny question, but people don't. This is a sidetrack back to the last topic, but Jeff, you think like getting GSA into a data center is easy. Sometimes it takes, 8 weeks. It would literally take 8 weeks for some of our customers to get the GSAs into their data center. So a lot of times it's not even easier than alternative solutions. But back to the assessment. So the next step is, measure your success, and then you do an analysis on that, and that will lead you to your next purchase.
I have a talk and something on YouTube that I call the search immaturity cycle, which is people replacing their search technology on average about a 3-year cycle and going around and around the same circle by concentrating on the technology rather than just look at it as a project and what are they trying to accomplish and things that are sort of common sense. So any replatforming is a great opportunity to go back to basics and see what you need, given that all organizations evolve. So I'd keep it sort of at that level and then understand that there's lots of options. This situation caused BA Insight to develop a migration program to help people move to either the Microsoft Search, SharePoint Search, Office 365 Search, or Azure Search, or to open source, specifically Elasticsearch. And there's lots of other vendors as well. So the number of options technically is quite large. And if you take a common sense project approach, you can winnow those down very quickly and get to some success. If you're just saying, well, I just want to replace what I have with the same thing, not only are you less likely to get something that is successful, but you'll have a much harder time figuring out which way to go.
Yeah, I think that you plan your speech is you want to break the cycle.
Yeah.
Because there's a cycle of repeated behavior that doesn't yield a positive outcome. And in general, most search technologies can do the common use cases in a similar manner. And there's pluses and minuses. And then in particular, you get into what areas do they focus on? Is it a specific vertical? Is it a specific technology pattern? And like I said, I can whittle down it to a variety of things. But one of the things that we say is when systems talk so do people. A majority of our challenges on implementations are organizational and social. And I think that the next one, and I think that this is something also that's a very much a strength in BA Insight is, people overlook the plumbing. During a sales cycle, a lot of times we joke about connectors and connectivity as being kind of the plumbing behind the scenes, and no one worries about the plumbing in their house until it works. But it is, you don't have a system unless you have content. And if you think that everything's going to be on a file system or an HDFS or S3 and you can just pick it up, that's pretty naive. It's the contents where people are collaborating and as I kind of mentioned before, where are they at in their workflow? They're not working in S3. They're working in Salesforce. They're working in some, lithium community, that you need to monitor, email streams, et cetera. So I think that one of the strengths to any system is its ability to ingest content and having people around there who know how to do it. We had a conversation with someone who was talking about SAP, and they said, well, SAP, They were using autonomy. This is nothing against autonomy, but it's like, oh, it's taken us 7 days to get all of our SAP case data in. And we're like, well, SAP, we say it eats like an elephant, poops like a mouse. Like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, we totally throttled it down. Like, okay, so how you're looking at replatforming, how are you expecting this next search system to deal with that? If we have to throttle down, we're only able to kind of ingest through the pipe that you give us. What are, do you have some add-ons there about kind of, I think you share the connectivity pain that I do.
Yeah, I'm a big common sense guy, and despite the fact that BEinsight is a product company providing connectors, auto classification, applications, and analytics, I first and foremost want people to be successful with search, whether it involves our technology or not. And with connectivity, I just usually advise people to pick the 3 or 4 systems that gives you 80% of what you need for the primary audiences and work on those, and then just have a program that continually onboards more content, because when things work well, you end up with another system. You end up with things coming out of the woodworks. Each of these systems has its own nuances. I mean, SAP, you've just talked about, but increasingly with cloud-based systems, Box and Google Drive look like they do exactly the same thing, but from a connector standpoint, they behave very differently.
And there's limitations on the API. There's one that by default you have 5,000 API calls a day. The APIs are designed around iOS and Android apps, and not for mass consumption and ETL. It's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Part of what makes it fun. So for listeners, in terms of where do you start with exactly what Michael said. Look at where you are and has it worked or not. And that'll also give you an appreciation for what you need.
What we drive to. So if someone comes in off the street and asks us to aid them, or that they're looking at a particular product, or that we have a connector, the first thing we're going to ask them is, what are you trying to do? And then we're going to repeatedly hit on them with why, because people don't go and I make a joke. There's no one's buying enterprise web servers. It's not a line item typically on a solution. They're trying to build a new community. They're trying to create an engagement platform. They're trying to develop an app. And oh, by the way, there is this web server technology, and on its face, it's commoditized. But if it doesn't work well, the whole thing crumbles. And so we want to talk about the use case. So who are the users? What is their expectation? Is there a disbursement statistically, or by location or purpose? And from there, that's how you kind of walk down the path to see if it's something that is going to be an interesting solution to implement. A lot of times, people, they may have a need for search, and but they don't really have a basic need, but they don't really have to go and spend a lot of money to solve it.
This is such an interesting conversation. I think if I ask you to put on your fortune-telling hats and talk about where we see search going, and I'll limit that even to now to 2019, right? If we put sort of a gate on these predictions, we know from the sort of lines in the sand that Google has drawn, it feels very much like they're trying to, move the GSA feature set into the cloud. And this is the way they're going to do that. It may not meet all of the features, but are we going to be having this conversation again in 2019 about, Google Cloud Search and how it now answers all the questions that the GSA purported to answer, but this was their strategy to get out of it, and now it works great? Or is there something else that we're going to be looking at as a major market factor? What do you think, Michael? Do you want to start?
I think in 2017 and 2019, what we're going to see is that the index is less important. Elastic is becoming very prominent. BA Insight works with it, just as they did SharePoint, for example. IBM has chosen to replace its index and Watson Explorer with it. And a variety of other companies it's just kind of what developers build to. So on one hand, the index itself is going to be kind of similar around, and it's going to be people's ability to add more context and insight. And I'm trying to use the words without using the kind of the catchphrases. So where the system is going to be, where the system can provide assist features, where the system can provide answers in context, it's going to be more useful. I mean, Google's got 40 to 80 engineers working on cloud search. They're eventually going to get the product that they want out. And I think Jeff and I think that it's not the product that replaces the GSA. It's a completely different product. It's a completely different direction for them, and it's going to be more G Suite focused. I think that machine learning is primarily is coming from a learn to rank. So the system is auto-tuning the result set based on its use, based on algorithms that are pushed into it for you, and you could be all the way down to an individual. So it could be you is I'm in the West Coast versus the East Coast. I'm anything they can pick up on your profile, and that's great because again you're not needing keywords. You're not needing teams of people who are going through your logs trying to figure out what people are searching for. The system vendors will employ those people to create the algorithms that meet the best practices and use cases for it, and then you're going to include them in their products so that you don't have, like 30 companies don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's why you buy the product. The natural language processing and cognitive things are, I think, where a lot of the hype is and a lot of the complexity, which I don't know is going to come to fruition. Jeff?
The next couple of years I'm really excited about because there's a wave of, I'll just use the buzzword, of more intelligent search, whether you call it cognitive search or insight engines, whatever. It's an awareness, a new awareness of some of the old existing use cases and technologies like natural language processing, but genuinely some new ways of interacting with search through bots, through spoken language, etc., are already coming into prevalence. And in this particular area about, how do the vast majority or sort of the commoditized enterprise search things work, my crystal ball says that a lot of it will be ultimately in the cloud. That Google Cloud Search, which I think right now is trying to look like Delve and catch up to Microsoft, and surprisingly, will become strong for people that are using G Suite, just like Delve is strong for people that are all in on Microsoft, and that won't be enough. For me, as a perpetual search nerd, it's going to be a very exciting couple of years.
I agree. I mean, this is the most exciting period. I've been doing search for coming up on 15 to 18 years.
Since you were 4?
Yeah. Yeah. I reached the keyboard and boom, I was searching. Yeah. But we have the technology is its most interesting. The capabilities that the technology provides, the computing, and it's what really brought me to search was the fact that it was, this is the one thing that I've done professionally that actually uses my computer science degree. You're trying to get every CPU cycle you're out of the CPUs. It's just computing intensive. So you take the machine learning, all the algorithms that are out there, you couple that with the cloud computing, and you couple it with the compelling event of the GSA deprecation, and it puts it in our view a very exciting time to be in the landscape. And we're just really looking forward to the excitement of the next 18 months or so, and of course beyond. But it's really we're going to be faced with people who have to make decisions. We're going to be building systems that matter for them. It's going to affect how their business runs. It's really exciting.
I have a number of links to blog posts and resources on both the MC+A.com website and bainsight.com. Michael, you first. What would you like to recommend folks do? Any resources or links you would like to include and make note for our listeners?
Yeah, we have a migration guide on our website. Our YouTube channel kind of goes through some of the replatforming choices that people have, and I'll also include an article, two more articles, one on the overall strategy about replacing the GSA, and then lastly, kind of our thoughts on the RFP side, kind of help us help you write a better RFP.
Perfect. And Jeff, where would you like to point people for BA Insights resources?
Well, we'll put links in with the show notes, and we have a landing page specifically for this if you're using the Google Search Appliance. And if you're not, I would say first check what you're using and use this as an opportunity to talk about search to your management and about a big landscape change that will help you get resource and attention to do a better and better job in search.
Excellent resources and guidance across the board, gents. We hope it has been useful for those of you listening and thinking about your replatforming decisions, particularly in light of the changes with the GSA. Thank you so much, Michael Cizmar, for joining us, and Jeff Freed, CTO of BA Insight. On behalf of Michael and Jeff, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next time right here on Shared Insights, the podcast from BA Insight.